This is The Pumpkin Prince, and this is the first comic published by Just Call Me Insane. This is Missy's independent imprint. And actually, interesting fact, when she had her first indie takeover where she gathers a bunch of independent creators and promotes them, I was on that. She very graciously let me be a part of her first indie takeover. Grateful for that. Her comic is finally out and in my hands, and I have to say, this is quite an enjoyable experience. It's a very good first showing. Absolutely love the quality of this book. It's got a nice matte cover. Pages feel nice. Nothing feels like it's wrongly printed or anything like that. So this is entirely done by Missy herself. I always love books that are done entirely by one person because they have a very consistent experience. So you have the way the page looks in terms of it having, from scripting to layout to final page, and all of that is consistent because it's one person doing it. Now, the one thing I am going to say about this book is that it is very much a prequel to a larger story. So this doesn't really establish all that much. It establishes just enough to give the reader some intrigue on that second issue, which is incoming, but there really is not much more than that. And as you can see, this is a very simple book. The character designs, they are good, but they're very simple. The backgrounds, as you can see, are quite simple. There is not much in terms of complexity in the backgrounds. There aren't any grandiose two-page spreads. The story that's told is very simple, with the Pumpkin Prince awaking to the fall spirit, and then he has some semblance. He has a flashback, and then he remembers who he is, and then that's really it until the next issue, which I'm really intrigued by. I'm very interested in this, but I think this book does not do the best job of characterization, because the only way I know of the fall spirit is through the let's see if I can see right here. So this is the back matter section of the book, and this is how you learn the name of the fall spirit if you read that. It's not something that's really presented in the book itself. So it's very light on characterization. It's very light on world building. There really isn't much. It's just establishing the beginning of a narrative that I think is really interesting and really intriguing. And I like the simplicity of this, the fact that this is black and white. There's no colors, so it gives it this eerie, mystical feel that I think she was going for. So that's all well and good. I do absolutely love these panel layouts. It all looks very clean. Like I said, there's a lot of consistency in this book because it was all done by one person. So you have complete control of the experience from the script to the layouts to the final pages, and that leads for a consistent reading experience for the reader. And I think this is a very good example of that. In terms of that, from the lettering to the page layouts, the way everything is done, it all looks very nice. And like I said, it's a very simplistic book. So this is probably, you can see, like, this is the 1-2 page spread in the book, and it's still very simple. So you don't have any complicated backgrounds. You don't have a lot of detail. The character designs, like you can see, they're very simplistic. You can see them there. Very simplistic character designs, very simplistic backgrounds. There's no coloring. There really isn't much in terms of like grandiose in terms of the effects. For, if I can find the lettering effects, there is not even much of that, but you can see like that there. There really isn't much in terms of anything in this book being super complicated. I wouldn't say muted is necessarily the right term to use, but it's definitely not using much, so very simplistic. I keep saying that word, but there, like I said, it's not a book that is going all out and trying to present all of these really crazy happening things. It shows very little. It shows just enough to get you intrigued to want that second issue, but it doesn't really do much more than that, which I think probably is the narrative choice with this, although I wish there was a little bit more characterization for the fall spirit. I think the Pumpkin Prince, he had enough characterization in the context of, like I said, this being a setup for a much more grandiose narrative, or I would say grandiose is might not be the best word, but a longer narrative that'll take place over the course of several books. Book 2 is already being worked on as far as I know. Of course, you've got layouts in the back of the book for not page 2, but got layouts for book 2, some sneak peeks there. So, of course, there is a second book in the works. So this is a narrative that's going to continue. There's enough there to make the reader want that second book, or want to read that second book, I should say. But she could have added just a couple more details, like a name for the false spirit, characterizing her a little bit more, why she even is, a little hint as to why she is where she is, why where she is so abandoned and eerie. That would do a nice thing to make this feel more like a world, and less like this story where you've got two characters interacting with each other, because it very much feels just like these two characters talking to each other in a very isolated space, because like I said, the backgrounds are just so simplistic. So there could have been a little bit more of world building and characterization for the false spirit, but otherwise this is a really solid experience. Especially, like I said, this is her first book. This is Just Call Me Insane's first book, that's her imprint, first book she's published under her own independent imprint, and she did a fantastic job. I'm definitely rooting for her in the second book and everything else that she does. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. Joker is out.